And so when I say Chinese, I want you to scream out the nation that's associated with this. For example, if I say Chinese, you're going to say what?
China.
All right, let's say it with authority. When I say Chinese, you say what?
China.
All right, that's just a test right there. So here we go. Chinese.
China.
Russian.
Russia.
Italian.
Italy.
German.
Germany.
Swedish.
Sweden.
Korean.
Korea.
Egyptian.
Egypt.
Nigerian.
Nigeria.
Black.
Exactly. Nothing. Tell him, Pastor. Tell him, Pastor. Black, nothing. Yes.
I hope you were able to successfully identify the issue.
The same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
The white man is enacting a story all over the world. We left our homes and flooded the world. We smothered culture. We smothered knowledge. We erased history and rewrote it our way. Myself, my grandfather is 100% Ashkenazi Jewish. Claiming to be Jewish, Ashkenazi Jewish is just a conspiracy. White men claiming to be of tribes of Israel when I'm Germanic. You know, I have no ties to Israel, no ties to Judaism. You know, except loosely written history that's been whitewashed over for centuries. And, you know,
from the Renaissance.
Oh yeah, right. You wipe everything clean. It's funny how exactly the Renaissance. It's this rebirth, but it's white rebirth. I think at the same exact time the Renaissance is happening, Columbus is sailing to America and committing genocide.
The same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
There's only one true ethnic Jew, the Mizrahi Jew, because they are Africans, and if you read the original Bible written in Phoenician Hebrew, they're not. Jewish people are not Europeans. The modern Jews in Israel are Russians or Khazars to be precise, from Russia. I learned it from my grandfather that he was because he was an Ashkenazi Jew.
The same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
להתחיל לאסוף את המסתננים, לא צריך לחכות לבג"ץ, לא צריך שום דבר.
אני רואה חרא מחוץ לבית שלי, יריקות, פסיכופטים, אנשים שרק מחפשים איך לרצוח אותי בעיניים שלהם, אבל אף אחד לא מאמין לנו. אנחנו גזענים כדי לרצות לשמור על החיים שלנו ועל השפיות שלנו. אז אני גאה בלהיות גזענית, אם אני גזענית בשביל לשמור על החיים שלי, אז אני גאה.
Hey, let's destroy Pussy! מה את עם כושי נשואה? את נשואה עם כושי! לכי את והוא! תלכי מפה! תלכי! את נשואה עם כושי, לכי! לא מתביישת!
The same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
נחשף ביערות בורקינה פאסו, שבט קניבלים נטו נטו. שלום למנהיג השבט קזבובו.
שלום עליכם. אברהם יצחק יעקב, יודע עברית, שולחן, חשבונית, קובי פרץ, מותחלס, יבוטאו.
מר קזבובו, כולנו כאן בישראל מופתעים ונרגשים נוכח האפשרות שתעלו ארצה.
קזבובו שמח, 2000 שנות גלות נגמר, רואים אור בקצה של מנהרה.
אתם בטוחים שאתם יהודים?
התחלנו על חנן. אם הוא שחור הוא לא יהודי?
לא בגלל שהוא שחור, הוא...
מה הוא מה?
קניבל.
ומי אתה שתגיד לו מה לאכול, אם הוא קניבל הוא לא יהודי?
אולי תבוא, תעשה אצלנו שבת?
זה לא שיש לי משהו אישי נגדכם, אבל הפלשמורה למשל תקועים.
The same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
I'm so glad you're here because you can bring great clarity. Can you tell us a little bit about the Sephardic Jews and how they were scattered because they went west?
I sure can.
Because the reason why I want to is because a lot of them, and a lot of people don't know this, are in the Caribbean.
They are.
In the islands.
And you're one of them. I know that.
I'm one of them.
I know that.
Because, you know, a lot of folk don't know that those roots are there. One of the first batches of slaves that came to Jamaica, they were the Sephardic Jews. It's documented.
And they're all over the Caribbean,
over the Caribbean,
South America, Central America, and even the South Central United States.
Wow.
And DNA testing is a factor in all this now.
Genesis chapter 11, verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you.
Want to say peace and blessings to everyone. Hope all is well with you guys. If you guys can hear me clearly, type 1. If my mic sounds clear, if my mic sounds good, type 1. We got a lot to cover tonight. And this is episode 2 of our lesson, creating the atmosphere of change, right? Creating the atmosphere of change. Now, this is lesson number 2. This is a series that I did for the first time. I did this series about 11 years ago, believe it or not. This series is an old series, but really showing the importance of understanding Genesis. And most people that are teaching Revelation, the book of Revelation, teaching prophecy, really don't understand the book of Genesis. You cannot teach Revelation, the book of Revelation, if you don't understand the book of Genesis. So most cannot even understand and break down Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. So what we're doing right now, episode 1, we covered the image of the Most High. And I encourage you guys to go back and look at that particular video to get caught up. And for those that are not aware, this is We Woke Now Extended. This is my other channel, my backup channel, because currently on my main channel, I am locked down. I should be coming out of, solitary confinement, so to speak, in a couple of days. I think it's Tuesday or whatever. They, went back over an older video and gave me another, strike and 2 strikes and everything, removed the video, all because of me dealing with quoting some things from CDC statistics. But that's a whole nother discussion. But this is We Woke Now Extended. Share the link, hit the like and subscribe button. My main channel was We Woke Now. And I thank you guys for allowing, just really supporting that platform. We grew so quick in a short period of time. I think had it not been for this slowdown, me being locked down for 2 weeks, we would probably hit the 40,000 mark before the end of the year. And we literally grew easily almost 5 times the amount by last year at this time. So we thank the Most High for that. But if you're not subscribed to this channel, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. And for those that are watching on Facebook, this is We Woke Now Extended. Come on over here, hit the like and subscribe to this channel. Also, you'll see We Woke Now. That's the main channel. Go there, hit the like and subscribe to that channel. There is so much, to cover. And on my main channel, is so many foundational lessons that are there. So with that being said, guys, you guys know I am always in lockup with YouTube. So you'll know when I come out of it because I'll play my famous video. You guys have seen it a number of times. So put some stuff on my canteen, put Chico sticks on my canteen, get those Jolly Ranchers on my canteen, get those squirrel nuts on my canteen, to give me, hook me up with some of those fishes. You remember those fishes, those, the little candy fishes that was made out of like jelly or whatever, go ahead and put stuff on my canteen so that way the brother can survive. Put some Twinkies on my canteen, or what's that other thing? The honey buns, put the on the brother's canteen. I mean, again, I'm not in, the county. They got me in the pen. I'm like the most wanted person, I guess, because constantly they're going over and pulling up videos that's been sitting there, and using that to give me strikes and try to bring that channel down. But with that being said, I really appreciate you guys. And we got a lot to cover tonight. Right? Episode 2, we are going to deal with the Shabbat. We're going to deal with the Shabbat. I'm going to share a lot of information with you guys. And I'm going to ask that question. Have you guys been taught that we don't have to honor the Shabbat? Have you guys heard that before? If you guys heard that we don't have to honor the Shabbat by the church, and also some people that says that they are awakened to the truth. Have you heard that before, that we don't have to honor the Shabbat, that it's not under the law, no longer under the law, something to that effect? Have you guys heard that? If you heard that, type 1. If you haven't heard that, type 2. Right? If you heard that we don't have to honor the Shabbat, type 1. And if you haven't heard it, type 2. Right? And we'll go over some of the comments. We'll put it up on the screen here. Let's see some of the results here. Matter of fact, I think that there's a way that I could put some questions up in here, but I'm going to do that, work on that, to put a questionnaire, so to speak. So let's see here. We see Jennifer says she's heard that. Say peace and blessings to you. Calvin Andrus says he's heard that. Stay on fire. He put triple 1. So he heard that a number of times. Alexandria, she put 2. She haven't heard that. New Life, 1. Lemuria, 1. Second Exodus, peace and blessings to you, my brother. He put 4 1. So he heard that a number of times. Let's see who else do we have here. And we'll give some shout outs as we go along. Black to my roots. She's heard that. I Got Victory heard that as well. Let's see who else do we have here. Let's see here. All right. Wise Society has heard this as well. So you guys have heard this comment, right? And I think some of the other ugly things that you guys have heard about, heard this before. And again, I know that there's on my Facebook channel, there's a number of people that's connected to that channel that's from the church. And again, we have a dialogue here. Feel free to come over here to We Woke Now Extended. And if you want to jump on, I will drop the live. It's the link inside the comment section. You can jump on and we can have dialogue. But we've heard that. We've heard that. The next question I'm going to ask, have you received the term or been labeled being part of a cult when you tell your loved ones that you are honoring the Shabbat, that you're going to honor the feast days? Have you guys been told because of that, you're stating that you're not going to celebrate Christmas, you're not going to celebrate Easter, you're not going to celebrate Thanksgiving, you're not going to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, you're not going to celebrate Valentine's Day, that you're just going to honor the feast days, the holy feast days of the Most High? Have you been labeled a cult? Have you gotten negativity by those that say that they're following the Most High, or the Lord, so to speak, that they are following Christ? Have you heard that before, that you are in a cult because you honoring the Shabbat? You are in a cult because you are not celebrating Christmas. You're not Have you guys heard that before? If you've heard that before, I'm going to take another assessment here. Type one inside the chat if you heard that before. If you haven't, type two. I know I've heard that a number of times. Like, man, you don't celebrate you honoring the Shabbat. What you wanted those guys, right? The Seventh-day Adventist doesn't get the ridicule that we get. The Jewish community, as we know them, don't get that type of ridicule. But it's only our community, right? So let's see here. Calvin said he's heard it. Let's see. My cousin Ruhama, she said she get the side eye. That's right. We get the side eye, man. They make all kinds of faces. They make all kinds of faces when they see or hear that you honoring the Shabbat. They'll say stuff like, "Hey, it's under the law, and we no longer under the law." And then what? We got a lot to cover here. Let's see here. Jennifer Irby, she's heard it. Who else has heard this? Diamond Love, Diamond Sister or Sister Love. I mean, Sister Diamond. Excuse me for butchering your name. But appreciate the love and support on the main channel. Diamond Love, Sister Diamond. You've heard it as well. Let's see here. Black to My Roof says that she had, haven't come up under that type of scrutiny. But hey, I tell you, most of us have. You wanted those guys. Let's see here. Somebody said they've been Israelite wife Desiree. Appreciate you supporting us over here at the alternative channel. Been labeled a Jehovah Witness, and I was told I was in a cult. Only us, right? Only us, right? I got victory. Haven't heard that. Let's see who else has heard that. Alexandria says she haven't come under that type of scrutiny. Stay on Fire Ministry family. If you're not subscribed to his channel, go to my brother's channel. He and his wife is doing a great work. Me and my wife are the synagogue of Satan. So they've been referred to the synagogue of Satan because you said you're going to honor the Shabbat. Come on, family. Joy she haven't been scrutinized for that, which is a blessing. Damon, he says he's had to deal with that label. Wise Society says been laughed at or questioned by others. I mean, my family honors the Shabbat, so not by family. But yeah, we've all had to deal with that. We all had to deal with that. So family, we're going to go ahead and get into it. And let me make sure I have some moderators here because I haven't really done a lot on this channel as far as management. Let me make sure I have some moderators here so that way if anyone jump up in the chat and they want to act crazy, they want to really get into the chat and just kind of troll, you guys know what to do. Give them the boot, give them a warning, but then give them the boot if they start acting crazy. You know what I mean? So let me go ahead and look at the chat real quick, see who we have here. And that way I can put some moderators here. If I don't see any moderators, I will add you as a moderator. It's all right for people to disagree, but let's make sure that they're not being very disruptive in the chat. Let's see here. Let me see here. All right. See my cousin Ruhama. She's a moderator. Let's see here. All right. I'm going to put you as a moderator. Second Exodus. Let's see here. Who else do we have here? All right. Let's see here. I'm just looking here at the chat. Let's see here. Stay on Fire Ministry. You're a moderator. All right. And we'll pick it up as we go on, as we progress here. We'll add more here. All right. Let's see here. We'll add a couple more moderators here. And we're definitely going to need some additional moderators when we go back to the other channel because we're getting more and more traction, but I have to build it up again, being that I've been in solitary confinement again. So let's go to get into it, family. We have a lot to cover here. And again, I appreciate the love and support from you guys. So let's go and get started. Let me go ahead and clear this screen here. And we're going to deal with the Shabbat, right? We're going to deal with the Shabbat, right? And I know some of you guys say Sabbath. Sabbath, that is a Greek pronunciation, right? It is actually Shabbath, right? I'll say it again, Shabbath, not Shabbat, right? That's a whole nother word. It's Shabbath, right? And we're going to deal with that tonight. All right, let me go ahead and stretch this out. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and get started here, family. We got a lot to cover. All right. We're going to answer a lot of questions here. So, creating the atmosphere of change. Keep the Shabbat holy. Right? Keep the Shabbat holy. Let's go to Genesis chapter 2, verse 2 and 3. Right? And we'll deal with verse 1 when I take it all the way back to Genesis 1 and 1. So I'm purposely not dealing with Genesis 1 and 1 yet, but we'll deal with Genesis 1 and 1 when we get I say in a couple of weeks. But nevertheless, we're going to start at verse 2 because for those that are not aware, these first 3 verses is a continuation of chapter 1, right? I'll say this again. These 3 verses is a continuation of chapter 1, right? We see in chapter 1, right? You'll see 6 days of creation, but now we see the 7th day. And we're going to knock down a lot of the poor teachings that have been done, especially in the church when it comes to the Shabbat, right? So again, we're starting at verse 2, but this is a continuation of chapter 1. Understand this. It wasn't until like the 12th century that chapters were added to the scrolls, because it used to just be a endless scroll, so to speak, pages of scrolls, or but it wasn't chapters within there. Chapters was inserted in the 12th century, and then right around the 15th, 16th century, I want to say, if I remember correctly, the Geneva Bible was when they added verses. So the whole methodology of them adding chapters and verses, they didn't have a particular methodology. This is why you'll see certain chapters that start a certain way, but the actual thought, the conclusion of that chapter would be in another chapter. Or it seemed like some of the chapters that you read is like right in the middle of a thought, and you have to go to the previous chapters to get clarity. That's because, again, there was no strategy, there was no guidelines on how to divide, how to insert these chapters and verses. So again, these first 3 verses here is a continuation. That's why you see here on this particular Bible that I'm using, you see 7th day. This is the continuation of chapter 1. So let's start with verse 2. This is what it says, right? And on the 7th day, Elohim ended his work. Now, some of you guys would say Elohim. We're not getting into the semantics right now, but in the ancient Hebrew, it's Elohim. In the Israeli pronunciation, the Israeli language, it is Elohim. So again, it says, and on the 7th day, Elohim ended his work, which he had made, and he rested, Shabbath, on the 7th day from all his work, which he had made. So underline that inside your Bible or whatever apps that you're using. I want to make it clear, because in the church, what they would teach some, I'm not going to say all, but you have some that says that the Most High worked going into the 7th day. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. Because if that's the case, tell me what was created on the 7th day. Tell me what creatures, what did the Most High created on the 7th day? Because we see here in verse 1, it says, thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. In other words, the host of the heavens and the host of the earth was completely, was completed. So now on the 7th day, right, it says the Most High ended. So soon as that evening kicked in, right, going from the 6th day, right? Remember, a day and a 24-hour cycle. In Hebrew, it's in the evening, from evening to evening, right? So just as that 6th day, the evening, that twilight transitioning into the dark portion of the day, the Most High ceased his work. He did not work into the 7th day. So on the 7th day, Elohim ended his work, which he had made, and he rested, Shabbath, on the 7th day from all his work, which he had made. So again, Elohim blessed the 7th day, right? I want you to understand that. The Most High blessed the 7th day. We're going to see that in the next verse. I didn't put it here. I thought I had verse 3 here, but we'll go back here. We'll read it from here. It says, and Elohim blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which Elohim created and made. So we see that he rested. He rested. He rested on the seventh day. He didn't do no work on the seventh day. All right. So again, Elohim blessed the seventh day, right? There are two Hebrew words that transliterates to the word blessed. All right. And I'm going to give you clarity here. I want to make sure we understand it. There's two Hebrew words that transliterates to the word blessed. All right. I'll say it one more time. There are at least two Hebrew words that transliterates to the word blessed, because in order to put this in proper context, you have to understand what's the Hebrew word. Glad you asked. So let's go to one of the Hebrew words that transliterates to the word blessed. We see here it says ashar, right? Which means to be straight, to go forward, be honest, relieve. Now, we'll find this word in the 119th book of Psalms. And for some of you guys that want to learn Hebrew, number one, start with the 119th book of Psalms. This particular chapter, which is the longest chapter in the scriptures, this particular chapter is categorized, right? Each verse is categorized by the Hebrew letters. And each set of scriptures for that letter is going to give you more of an in-depth understanding of that letter. And what you will discover is that each letter is going to teach about the importance of honoring the laws, statutes, and commandments. I'll leave it at that. So let's go to the 119th book of Psalms. And I'm not going to read the entire verses from 1 to 8. I'm just going to highlight the first two verses. But notice what it says here. Blessed are the undefiled in the way who walk in the law of Yahweh. Wait a minute. Notice what it says again. Blessed are the undefiled in the way, right? Remember, Christ said, I am the way, right? And the followers, the initial followers of Christ, right? The Israelite followers of Christ, they were referred to as followers of the way. But notice what it says again. Blessed are the undefiled in the way who walk in the law of Yahweh. Blessed are they that keep his testimonies and that seek him with the whole heart. All right. So let me give you proper clarity. When we see that word, this is what this actual verse actually is saying, and I'm gonna break it down as far as the word ashar. But notice again, it's the actual proper understanding of that verse is saying an undefiled. And notice you'll see this Hebrew word tham yam, or in the Israeli language tamim, right, which is plural. This is the the masculine plural, but I'm pronouncing this in ancient Hebrew, tham yam or thamayam, right? And so this word, this is the actual word right here. Tham in the Israeli language is pronounced tam, right? This word actually transliterates to the word perfect, right? So a perfect person, and the word perfect from a biblical perspective is a person with integrity. It's easy to say that you have integrity when you're around a group of people, but can you have integrity when you by yourself? So again, we all are supposed to be perfect. That's one of the things that we were incorrectly taught. If you read Matthew chapter 5, right? When you get to the end of that chapter, Christ tells his disciples that they have to be perfect. He tells them the Most High is perfect. So we all have to be perfect. That's a part of the law. That's anyway, not getting into all of that. But anyway, an undefiled tham yam or thamayam, right, which transliterates to perfect, transliterates to integrity, right? An undefiled person is someone who walk in the manner. Darak comes from the primitive root word arak, which means manner, which means order, right? Of honesty and integrity, must be straight. In other words, ashar. That's the Hebrew word there. Ashar must be straight. You must be walking this straight and narrow path, right? Ashar, remember, it transliterates in that particular passage to the word blessed and able to grow, halak yam, and that's plural. So this is a continuous thing, right? Integrity is supposed to be continuous. That desire or walking in perfection, tham yam, is continuous, because again, the masculine plural, that means this is an ongoing thing, right? So here's the other Hebrew word that transliterates to the word blessed, right? And you guys probably heard this word before, Barak, right? Barak, right? This is the word that we're going to deal with in the passages that we're highlighting, right? Barak, it means to kneel. Make a note of that, family. To kneel, to bless, right? To bless the Most High, to bless Yahweh as an act of adoration, and vice versa, right? Man, vice versa, as a benefit. Congratulate, right? So that's what Barak means. It goes on to say, kneel down. And I want y'all to pay attention to that. Kneel down, right? Praise, salute, thank you, right? To give thanks. So when we really think of the Barak, right? To kneel down, going on one knee, right? How the greetings used to be back in the biblical times. They used to kneel down on one knee, like how you see the football players today on one knee, and they embrace each other. Because we're doing this via StreamYard, I cannot give you an illustration of it, but that's how they would greet each other. But Barak, it means to kneel down, praise. But here's the kicker: salute. Salute. Make a note of that word salute. But this is just more of an in-depth of the word Barak. I like to go into each letter to see what each letter means and see how it ties into the overall meaning of the word. So Barak means to kneel down. It means to celebrate. It means to salute. So when we look at Barak, right, the first letter, right, the Bayath in the Israeli language is Beth. It means house, family, bloodline, right? And then when we see the next letter is the Ra'ash in the Israeli language, is pronounced Fadesh, which means head, top, rank, beginning. And the last letter, the Kop, which means palm of hand. Okay, just wanted to give you a little more in-depth understanding of the word. So what did Christ say about the salute? Because we know that bless, Barak, means salute. So it says the Most High, he blessed, he barak the Shabbath. In other words, this is a salute. And some of you guys, if you prior military, you guys understand the importance of a salute. When you are someone gives you a salute, you have to salute them back, right? Especially officers. If you on the officer side, that's the one thing you could get in trouble. The lowest ranking person in the military at E1 can get an officer in trouble. It could be a 5-star general, can get in trouble if they do not return the salute. I'm going somewhere with this about the Shabbat. All right. So what did Christ say about the salute? Let's go to Matthew chapter 10, verse 11 through 14. And we're going to tie this all in together. And into whatsoever city or town ye shall enter, inquire who in it is worthy, and there abide till ye go thence. And when ye come into an house, salute it. So this is the Messiah sending his disciples out. And here's the purpose, right? Verse 1, it says here, and he had called unto him his 12 disciples. He gave them power against unclean spirits to cast them out, to heal all manner of sicknesses and all manner of disease. And these are disciples here. So he told them to go to his people. Notice what it says here in verse 5. The 12, Yahweh Shai Hamashiach, Jesus the Christ, sent forth and commanded them, saying, go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter you not. So it goes on and say in verse 6, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Now, when we skip down to verse 11, this is key, family. This is true evangelism right here. And into whatsoever city or town ye shall enter, inquire who and it is worthy. So the disciples had to do their homework. When they got sent out by the Messiah, they didn't just go to anyone. They had to do their due diligence. They had to do their research. They had to use discernment. So they had to make a determination based off of their assessment, based off of their research, based off of their studies, based off of their investigation, to inquire who is worthy for them to come to their house and bless them. Barak, salute them. So it says, inquire who and it is worthy. So they didn't just go to anyone. They went to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, and they had to determine who is worthy. And there abide till ye go then. So they go to that place and see who's worthy, and then they will go to that place. And this is the next part that the next set of instructions that the Messiah gave them. Verse 12. And when ye come into an house, salute it. So in other words, if you come to a house that have been deemed worthy, come to the house, salute it. Barak, salute it. Salute it. Right? But it didn't stop there. And if the house be worthy, let your peace come upon it. Right? So when he came to a house that appeared to be worthy, bless it, salute it. But guess what? If that house, after coming to that house, you did your due diligence, you were under the understanding that this household was a blessed house, but then you get to that house. It's one thing getting, doing your recon and doing your assessment on it, but then when you get there, your discernment sees something different, sense something completely different. And if the house be worthy, that means if that house be worthy, if they are fall under the guidelines that the Messiah said here, if they are worthy, that means they have to take an assessment to see if that house is worthy. The Israelites are worthy. That remnant is worthy. That surviving portion is worthy. If the house be worthy, let your peace come upon it. Now, this is where we get into the word shalom. Some of you guys would say shalom. From an Israeli perspective, the ancient Hebrew is shalom. Shalom comes from the primitive root word shalom, right? So I'm not getting into the semantics. All I just say, don't knock me or others that say shalom. If some of you guys say shalom, that's fine. But don't knock me and others that says shalom. Why? Because ancient Hebrew, every letter was treated as a syllable. In ancient Hebrew, there was no O sounds in ancient Hebrew. As a matter of fact, let me play this quick clip. This is a professor teaching Hebrew, the Israeli language rather, and listen what they say about the O sound, and then we'll continue.
Here's a chart that summarizes vowel class and length. And you can see across the top the three classes, A, E, and U. And then down the side the four lengths, long, medium, short, and very short. So let's just go over this chart. We'll start with the A class vowels. The long vowel is cholam vav, and you'll recall that this says O as in snow. Now you might wonder why an O vowel is in the A class, and this is because of historical considerations. Originally there was no O sound in Hebrew. Everything that is a cholam vav used to be a long A. If you know the Hebrew word for peace, it's shalom. If you know the Arabic word for peace, it's salam. And that long A in Arabic is now an O in Hebrew.
What?
Heard it, right? You heard it with your own ears, right? In ancient Hebrew, there was no O sound. So don't try to knock someone if you hear them say shalom or if you hear them say shalom, right? But shalom comes from the primitive root word. So I want to make sure you guys understand that there was no O sounds. But if you say shalom, I'm not going to beat you up on it, but just don't beat others that are saying shalom. So again, there was no O sounds in ancient Hebrew, and there's plenty of words that are being used with the O sound that didn't exist at that time. But it's all good, family. So I just wanted to just make sure you guys understand that point, right? So getting back here, so when we look at this passage that we're highlighting, and I want to make sure you guys understand here, going back to this passage that we're highlighting, right? And if the house be worthy, after you shared the salute, right? They saluted you back. In some cases, they may not salute you back. But if that house be worthy, let your peace, right? Shalom, and others will say shalom, right? So it says, let your peace come upon it. And what that means is shalom or shalom in ancient Hebrew means it is well, right? Many cases it's used in a salutation, right? It is well. Let that peace, let your peace come upon that house. In other words, heal that house of these infirmities. Let your peace, the authority that Christ has given them. He said, the authority, the authority of heaven, right? The kingdom of heaven. When he says the kingdom of heaven is referring to the authority. It says here, right? This is what they're supposed to do. Let their peace come on that house. Let that shalom or shalom come over that house. And he gave them power against unclean spirits. So if that household deemed to be worthy, right? That household deemed to be worthy, then they are to operate in the authority that Christ has given them, that the Messiah is giving them to cast out unclean spirits, to heal all manners of sickness. Didn't say some manners of sickness, to heal all manners of sicknesses and all manner of disease. Guess what, family? He didn't tell them to do it for any and everyone. If that house be worthy, let your peace, let your shalom to some, let your shalom to others, and some will say salama. I'm not knocking any of that, but let your peace come upon it. But if it be not worthy, let your peace return to you. See, family, if someone curses you out and you trying to bless them, you trying to share the word with them, guess what? You don't have to end that conversation by saying the Most High bless you. That's not biblical, as we see here. If they reject you, I got rejected by some pastors, and they said all kinds of crazy stuff when they found out that I no longer do the Sunday service thing, and they insulted me. And guess what? And in the end of our discussion, they said, God bless you to me. Right? I said, hey, I reject your shalom. I reject your shalom. I reject it. I'm not taking that with me. That's not peace. I reject it. Keep it with you. And I'm taking my shalom. I'm taking my peace with me. So, family, you have to understand, stop leaving your peace with people. That's why many of you guys are going through so much craziness, because someone insulted you and you left your peace with that person. And now they're doing all kinds of witchcraft over it. They trampling over your peace. They're trampling over your pearls. Take your peace with you. That's why so many are struggling right now, because they don't know where their peace is, because they gave it to someone that did not deserve that peace. So I'm telling you right now, contrary to what we were taught in church, guess what? You take your peace with you. Stop giving your peace to people that don't deserve your peace. That's why you have to use discernment. Again, it says, if the house be worthy, after they salute that house returns that salute. If that house be worthy, let your peace come upon it. But if the house be not worthy, guess what? You take your peace with you. That's part of the problem within the church, right? I've been there as a pastor, that you have people coming up to the altar asking you to pray for them. And in many cases, they get ready to go right back out in the world. They dealing with a hard time and they just want a quick fix. You pray over them, they disappear. You don't see them again until you have a situation. See, we have to use wisdom. I remember when I used to work as a project manager for AT&T, I remember there was a guy that came up to me, asked me, hey, hey, Pastor, can you pray for me and my girlfriend while we go to Cancun, that we can save up money to go to Cancun? I said, wait a minute. So you want me to pray for you and your girlfriend to go to Cancun to fornicate? He said, no, that's not what I'm saying. I said, well, that's what you're going to Cancun for. I said, you want me to pray that you and your girlfriend, that the Most High bless you for you and your girlfriend to go to Cancun, take a trip to Cancun to fornicate. Oh, no, that's not what I'm saying, Pastor. Then I remember I had another person come up to me and say, hey, Pastor, can you pray for me and my girlfriend that God bless us to be able to find an apartment? Wait a minute. So you want me to pray that the Most High bless you and your girlfriend to shack up? Come on, family. We have to be real about it. Many cases, many are leaving their peace, blessing, saying the Most High approve of behaviors that he doesn't. Take your peace with you. If it be worthy, if they're willing to completely walk away from that whole lifestyle, then you bless them. But guess what? If they reject you, if they don't return your salute, guess what Christ says? Let your peace return to you. Why? Because when you greet someone, you're kneeling down on a knee. Guess what? The NFL, they didn't create taking a knee. That came from here. That's a biblical way of greeting one another. So guess what? Christ says, and here's the proof right here, and whosoever shall not receive you, right? Who don't want to return your salute, whosoever shall not receive you, nor hear your words, when ye depart out of that house or city, shake the dust off. Shake the dust off your feet, because when you take a knee, the top portion of your feet, right, is going to be dusty. It's going to have dirt on it. Your knees is going to be dirty. So guess what he's saying? When you get up off that ground after you took that knee to kneel down and greet your brother or sister, greet that house, respect that house, they don't want to hear what you have to do. They don't want to return that salute. Shake the dust off. Brush the dust off your feet, right? So bless. Remember, bless, Barak in Hebrew means to kneel down. That's how you're going to brush the dust off your feet, by taking a knee. So if they reject your salute, guess what? Take your peace with you. You don't bless that place. You take it with you. You don't curse it out either, but you take your peace with you. It says, depart out of that house or city, right? And go to the next house. Don't bring that experience to that next house. If that house receive you, don't talk about the other house, the bad experience. You know how some of us get, well, I was just at the house next door. I was at your neighbor next door. They were rude. They were disrespected. No, brush the dirt off at that place. Leave that experience at that place and go to the next house and start all over again. All right. So bless, Barak in Hebrew means to kneel down. And look at here. This is the Greek definition of what I pointed out. Barak, bless, right? It says to enfold in the arms, to salute, to welcome, embrace. So again, they would take a knee, right? They'll be knelt down, right, facing one another. And guess what? They will hug each other. They'll lock arms, and then they'll hug each other. Right? That's how they used to hug each other in the biblical times. Right? So this is further confirmation here. But getting back to this main point, on the seventh day, Yahweh knelt down to show his love and respect for his creation by presenting his ordained rest. On the seventh day, the Most High used this as an opportunity, as it says, to kneel down, to salute his creation. So think of the Shabbat as being a permanent salute. This is before Israel existed. So this tells you that all descendants of Adam was taught to salute, to honor the Shabbat, not just an Israelite thing, as many try to reduce it to, because Adam wasn't an Israelite in the very beginning. Eve wasn't an Israelite in the very beginning. Their seeds, Cain and Abel, wasn't an Israelite in the very beginning. Right? So on the seventh day, Yahweh kneeled down to show his love and his respect for his creation by presenting his ordained rest. So again, Elohim blessed the seventh day and sanctified it. So not only did he kneel down, not only did he salute his creation, he also sanctified this particular day. Well, what does sanctify means? This is where you get the word quadash, right? It means clean. It means consecrate. It means dedicate. Wait a minute. This is a day of dedication, right? Keep, right? The Hebrew word for keep, shamar, means to execute. Dedicate, right? Kath or kana kath, right? This right here is means to dedicate, right? Like with the Feast of Dedication, right? Kana kath, right? Which in a nutshell means dedicate, right? So keep, shamar, means to execute. Adam was given the responsibilities from the very beginning to do what? Execute. Till, right? Abad or abadah, and execute, shamar, the things of the Most High, the instructions that the Most High has given him. So also to proclaim. Notice what it says: proclaim, purify, sanctify. Right? So not only did Yahweh, going back here, because when we look at clean, consecrate, dedicate, we see keep, we see proclaim, purify, sanctify, and we see this in the background here, just to make sure that we understand here. So we see that there was this day was dedicated. We see this day was ordained by the Most High. So not only did the Most High Yahweh I want to be clear, not just the Most High, it was Yahweh specifically. Understand this, Genesis chapter 2, and I want to make this clear because some would teach that Genesis chapter 1 is a creation. Genesis chapter 2 is a creation process. No, there was one creation process. Genesis chapter 2 is a summary. It's more of an in-depth, or should I say an itemized process or discussion about the creation. You could confirm this in the works of Josephus. So you're seeing what happened on the sixth day of creation, when the Most High created Adam and Eve, right? This, chapter 2 gives more of an in-depth understanding of what took place, so that we're not looking at two different creation processes. So not only did Yahweh kneel down to show his love, his respect for his creation by presenting us the seventh day, he also consecrated this day. He also ordained this day, right? So now we see Barak, which means to kneel down. We see Quadash, which means to consecrate, means to dedicate. It means to execute. Now let's look at the word Shabbath, right? It says this: desist, cease, celebrate. Wait a minute. So Shabbat also means celebrate, not just for you to take the day off and be all about yourself. The first 6 days, that's all about you working to take care of what your household. But on that seventh day, it's not just for you to stay home and rest to yourself. Because many will say, hey, you know what? I could do all of this by myself. I don't need to congregate. I don't need to be affiliated with no one. No, you know what? On that seventh day, you're resting, but also you're ceasing from work. But you are what? Using that day to do what? Celebrate who? The Most High. So the Shabbat is a celebration. See, this completely knocks down any poor teaching that many of us have received in the church about the Shabbat. It's not optional. So it means desist rather, cease, celebrate, keep. In other words, execute, shamar, the Shabbat, right? It says here, rest, make to rest. You know, some of us, we have to be forced to rest, you know, because especially being a pastor, man, I will go and go and go. Sometimes I have to make myself rest. I'm going to tell you, since we started honoring the Shabbat at our ministry, we started, I want to say it's been 5 years now. When we transitioned, probably about 7 to 8 years since we transitioned our ministry out of Christianity, right? Now we're honoring the law, statutes, and commandments. We're honoring the feast days. We're honoring the Shabbats, plural. And since we've done that, man, I've gotten more rest. Why? Because can you imagine the Shabbat starts at evening on what many would call Friday, right? At 6 p.m. And then it ends the following evening, right? Which many will refer to Saturday. And then guess what? We don't come together on Sundays. So that means that, you know, we allow our bodies to rest. We celebrate the Most High. Then we get an extra day of rest because I don't work on the weekends, right? So I'm getting an extra day of rest. And here's the kicker. Not only am I resting, my finances are resting. Anyway, I'll stop right there. But again, let me go back here to the Shabbat. The Shabbat means to desist, cease, but the kicker is celebrate, keep. In other words, execute. Shamar, Shabbat, rest, make to rest, still. All right. So these are some of the key words that gives you more of an in-depth understanding of the word Shabbat. The first letter is the Shan. Right. In the Israeli language, it can be pronounced the Seen or Sheen, depending on what side of the top that Nikud or Naquad is at. Right. If it's to the left, Seen, to the right, Sheen. In ancient Hebrew, you don't have to worry about that. It's pronounced the Shan. Right. And this is teeth, tool. Right. So the Shabbat is a tool. Right. Because guess what? If you don't get rest, your body, you can really make yourself sick if you don't get the proper rest. But then you can also curse yourself if you don't do the things that pleases the Most High, which is honoring this day here and returning his salute. House, family, bloodline is very beneficial to the bloodline, honoring the things of the Most High. Then lastly, we see sign, mark, evidence. And I'm going to show you that the Shabbat is a sign. right? It was given to Israel as a sign, a mark, proof, and evidence. So the Shabbat is a tool in preserving our household, preserving our bloodline, family. So while we're here, I thought I'd give you a little history here. I thought I'd give you guys a little history here. And again, I really appreciate you guys. I appreciate the love and support that you guys are giving me here. I really appreciate it. So let's go ahead and dig a little deeper here with the word, with the Shabbat. But let's start with some history here because I want to make sure you guys understand some history about some of the cultures, the tribes in West Africa, right? Because we know we get a lot of flack from the church, not all, but some within the church, some within the conscious community trying to belittle or downplay who we are. But it's all good. But notice this here. Princeton University, map, 1710 by Mal Herman, 1732. You could get this from Princeton University. You can also go to Northwestern University. But I'm going to focus on this particular map by Princeton University. And here's why. You guys probably seen this map before, right? You're going to see here when we zoom in on this right here, you see Negro land. I remember when I first taught this to our ministry, right? 10 years ago. They laughed when I told them, what if I told them that there was a place called Negro land? They laughed. I remember some of the ministries that I taught this lesson to, not this lesson, but a lesson titled Identity Theft. And I said to them, what if I told you that there was a place called Negro land? They laughed. They thought it was a joke as well. But family, this is Negro land, right? West Africa, Negro land, right? Negro land. But another key that really stood out is this territory here, right? Which is Guinea, right? And when we go there, we see some writings here. We see Weta, in other words, Judah. But notice what this writing that says here. I'm going to read this. This is not on the map that's from Northwestern, but I noticed this is on the map at Princeton. And this is what really, I did a lot of research, and that's what this led me to the source I'm getting ready to share with you. I was able to confirm it with the source that I'm getting ready to share with you about the writings on this map, right? So we see Weta, but then we also see this text here. And I'm going to read this. This is Old English. So it's going to look a little funny when you see Y actually is A, but Old English, that's what you see on this map right here. This is Old English, right? But let's see what it says. It says, I am credibly informed that a country about 100 leagues north of the coast of Guinea is inhabited by white men, or at least a different kind people from the blacks, who wear clothes and have a use of letters, make silk, and that some of them keep the Christian Shabbat. So there was some things that stood out for me because I know during this time they viewed all of our ancestors that was in West Africa, in Africa period, they viewed them as barbarians. They viewed them as uncivilized. So this is what really stood out. It's like, wait a minute. They said inhabited by white men, or at least a different kind of people from the blacks who wear clothes. I'm like, wait a minute. What's the shocker about white people wearing clothes and have a use of letters? Oh, they're right. Okay, what's the surprising? What's the shocker in that? And then here's the kicker. Some of them keep the Christian Shabbat. These are some of the things that stood out to me. So when I started researching this, right, I want to show you the source that I came across. So when we see this word pagan, and I want to just highlight pagan, this word can be a very deceptive word. It can take on so many different meanings. But many cases, when you see pagan being used, this is what it means. And I'm not saying all, but most cases, person of non-Christian or non-Jewish faith, villager, rustic, civilian, country people. But notice this right here, family. Pagan and heathen are primarily the same in meaning, but pagan is sometimes distinctly applied to those nations that, although worshiping false gods, are more cultivated, as the Greeks and Romans, right? So sometimes, many cases, when you see pagan, right, especially when you read that KJV, you see pagan, you're dealing with the Greeks, you're dealing with the Romans. But when you see heathen, you're dealing with some dark melanated nations, because you see this word heathen associated with the Ethiopians, right? So notice what it says here, and heathen to uncivilized idolaters as the tribes of Africa. Come on, family. You can't get away from this. So pagan in many cases, especially during that time of when we start getting into like the 15th, 16th century, pagan was referred to what they considered to be civilized countries that was worshiping false deities like the Greeks and the Romans. And the word heathen was used as uncivilized idolaters. In other words, as the tribes of Africa. So I want you to make sure you understand that word. Okay. And that word pagan wasn't applied to Muslims as well. Okay, so did the Portuguese discover a different kind of white man who actually wore clothes and can write? I want to answer this question. Why would the Portuguese be surprised at finding a civilized group of white men? I'm going to answer that question. This is coming from Africa and its Inhabitants, volume 2 by Elise Recluse. And notice what he says here, right? This is on page 173. And I want to make this clear. I added here Sonic people because when you see up here, you won't see that. So the Saracos are actually today is referred to as the Sonic people, right? So with that being said, Saracos, right, the Jews of West Africa. Notice they are referred to as the Jews of West Africa, right? But unlike them, are chiefly wholesale dealers carrying on a large caravan trade between Sierra Leone and Timbuktu. And these are the people. These are the Sonic people. These are the Saracos. Look like you and I. Notice it's referring to them as being who? Israelites, right? So I want to give you some history here as we progress in this lesson, right? But we're going to continue just tying into that map, right? On page 207, east of Great Popo begins the Dahomey territory. And I'm going to do a lesson on a playbook on the Woman King, right? And I'm not going to let everything out the bag, but I just believe that some took it way out of context because in the movie the Dahomies, it was clear in the movie that the Dahomies sold other tribes into slavery. So what's the big deal? They made a big deal of something that's already was historically presented in the movie. It's because of that title, Woman King, and we'll deal with that, right? It's because of that title, Woman King. But the movie itself, some of the things that they pointed out, I mean, it's history. But we'll deal with that another time, right? So east of Great Popo begins the Dahomey territory, guarded by the important town of Glewe, known to Europeans by the various names of Fida, Hivada, Wida. Wida and Wida, right? The old writers called it Judah, and its inhabitants were said to be Jews. While the neighboring river, Alala, whose real name is Ephra, became the Euphrates. All right. And what I'm reading is what you see here. All right. Right. So, but this is the kicker on page 410. This is the kicker. A part of the local trade is in the hands of the Mavumbas, right? Because this is making it clear what that map is referring to, the group of people, or they say white or a different type of people from the blacks. They're dealing with this tribe called the Mavumbas, a people of grave and solemn aspect with intelligent eyes, straight or even aquiline nose, whose pronounced Semitic type has earned for them the Portuguese designation of Judeos Preton, right? Or Black Jews. So they were referred to, the Mavumbas were referred to as Black Jews, right? Black Israelites. They may certainly be regarded as of Jewish origin if the statement be true that they are strict observers of the Shabbath. You see that they're honoring the Shabbat. They didn't say anything about a Christian Sabbath. They're not honoring the first day of the week. They're honoring the seventh day of the week, abstaining even from all conversation on that day. When you research the Igbos, you'll see that they are honoring the traditions of Torah. They were honoring the seventh day Shabbat. And I think I have a clip here just so that way you guys can understand. Let me see here. Let me play this clip real quick so you guys can understand what's happening here. Let me see here. Listen to this real quick.
You are saying that the Igbo people have lost their identity because...
Contact with their God, with their maker, with their origin.
Okay. How do we know? We were this week, Abraham, we were in the place called Ibugad,
Obugad,
the place, the palace of God.
Yes.
You saw some things there. How do we know? If you are to tell me succinctly, how do we know? Do you believe that you are ancestors from the tribe of God? Do you believe that you are ancestors from the tribe of God? Do you believe that you are ancestors from the tribe of God? Do you believe that you are ancestors from the tribe of God?
Of course,
we believe that we are ancestors
Then
are tribe of God. Let me make it more clearer. Just like you rightly said before, that even after the dispersion of the children of Israel, that the 10 tribes, that there were other tribes that deflated to Judah. There were other tribes that deflated to Judah. There were other tribes that deflated to Judah.
That's right.
And that is to say,
a portion
is a mixture of other tribes.
That's right.
Good. Now, when you come to this very part of the world where the Igbos do exist, yes, we are called the tribe of God because the first person to enter here among all the tribes is God himself. But we have other tribes scattered all over the place. We have the tribe of Judah, we have so many
the tribe of
like
Dan
and Levi in this very place.
Right.
We have other tribes scattered all over the place. We have the tribe of Judah, we have so many
the tribe of
like
Dan
and Levi in this very place.
Right.
We have other tribes scattered all over the place. We have the tribe of Judah, we have so many
the tribe of Dan
and Levi in this very place.
Right.
But we have other tribes scattered all over the place. We have the tribe of Judah, we have so many
the tribe of Dan
and Levi in this very place.
Right.
Now, so, but all put together, like we have already said most of the time, that inside every Jew is the 12 tribe.
Absolutely.
So we are made up of all the tribe of Israel here in Nigeria. Made up of all the tribe of Israel here in Nigeria. Made up of, but we have other tribes scattered all over the place. We have the tribe of Judah, we have so many
the tribe of
like
Dan
and Levi in this very place.
Right.
Now, so, but all put together, like we have already said most of the time, that inside every Jew is the 12 tribe.
Absolutely.
So we are made up of all the tribe of Israel here in Nigeria.
I understand that, but there's some uniqueness here that we cannot ignore with the tribe of God. So before you kind of lost your tradition, because all the tradition I hear, it's like I said, this is Jewish,
Yes.
with a twist.
Yes.
Not exactly,
Yes.
but maybe 90%.
Yes.
You know, but now you're assimilated with Christianity to
Yes.
make things worse.
Yes.
And that's really impacted the
But
community.
negatively.
So I want to ask you a question. I mean, not to be controversial, because I see you have pages and pages of those traditions. And I hope you will make more videos for us,
All right.
systematically walking us
All
through
right.
those things. But I think it's overwhelming. We cannot say that the Igbo people do not have a connection to Israel.
Not at all.
We cannot say it. Can we say that they're exactly the tribe of God? Maybe. There is a strong connection to the tribe of God here.
Yes.
We know that. I was with you, and you showed me the statue of the man with the knife and the sword.
Yes.
And the word God exactly mean that. The
Yes.
people of the knife and the
yes.
sword. You know what you are? You're an ancient Israelite.
Ancient Israel, that's who we are. That's who we are. So if you give me time, if you give me time, all that he said.
No, we don't have.
There are so many years.
I know. Look at this. This is pages and pages of
Yes.
notes. And I promise we'll give more teaching. But here is my challenge to you.
All right.
I'm hearing some of your traditions. It's like the days of the Bible.
Yes.
Do you want to remain ancient Israelites, or you want to be Jews? Do you want to remain ancient Israelites, or you want to be Jews? I'm hearing some of your traditions. It's like the days of the Bible.
Yes.
Do you want to remain ancient Israelites, or you want to be Jews? That is the question I have for you.
Thank you.
I'll answer that question.
Go ahead, I will help you.
After the demise of Solomon, we now have the northern and southern kingdom of Israel.
Yes.
So when we talk about Jews, Jews are Israelites, but all Israelites are not Jews. The 10 tribes that got lost are not Jews. They were Israelites. Jews are Israelites, but all Israelites are not Jews. The 10 tribes that got lost are not Jews. They were Israelites. Jews are Israelites, but all Israelites are not Jews. The 10 tribes that got lost are not Jews. They were Israelites. So when we talk about Jews, Jews are Israelites, but all Israelites are not Jews. The 10 tribes that got lost are not Jews. They were Israelites.
Well, it's depending.
So minority cannot swallow the majority. We are here. We are the majority down here. So you are minority, and we are older than you.
So that's just giving you an illustration, letting you hear. That's Rabbi Shapiro, who is a Messianic Jew per se, and he acknowledged, making it clear that they acknowledge that they are ancient Israelites and that they were still keeping some of the traditions of Torah, even though some went into Christianity later on. But you see that he acknowledged that they were still honoring some of the older, what he called traditions, which were actually, they were honoring Torah, right? And so he asked them, do they want to remain ancient Israelites, or do they want to become Jews? That's a red flag. But anyway, I just wanted to let you hear that. So to tie it into this right here, it says they may certainly, and this is the Mavumbas, right? They may certainly be regarded as a Jewish origin if the statement be true that they are that they are strict observers of the Shabbath, abstaining even from all conversation on that day. So they were so how can I put it? They were so determined, right? They were so faithful, they were so loyal in honoring the Shabbat that they did not have conversations. They didn't indulge in conversations, of course, worship and those type of things, but they did not indulge in fruitless conversations on the Shabbat. On that day, they abstained, as you see here, even from all conversations on that day. We're not seeing that today. We do not see that today. I think people would struggle. Many probably wouldn't know how to act if they had to refrain from entering or having any type of discussions and conversations outside of being at the temple and worshiping and those type of things. But here they honored the Shabbat, not the Christian Shabbat. They honored the seventh day Shabbat in this text here. Didn't say anything about a Christian Shabbat. So that's what kind of made the writings on the map that I shared a little suspect. So are the non-blood descendants of Israel required to honor the Shabbat? Right? That's the key question here. Right? And I'm going to ask this to you guys, and we're going to answer it. Are the non-blood descendants of Israel required to honor the Shabbat? Because in the church, right, it is taught that, hey, Israel, the blood descendants of Israel, have to honor the Shabbat. The blood descendants of Israel have to keep the law. But the non-blood descendants of Israel, which they refer to the word Gentiles, don't have to honor the law, statutes, and commandments. They don't have to keep the Shabbat. They don't have to keep the holy days. So I'm going to ask this question for you guys to answer. Just type 1, yes, 2, no, or just type in yes or no. Are the non-blood descendants of Israel required to honor the Shabbat? And we could take a step further as well. Are we right now? Are we required to honor the Shabbat as the people of the Most High? So that's a yes or no. Type 1 for yes, 2 for no, or just type in yes or no. So are the non-blood descendants of Israel required to honor the Shabbat? And I'll post your answers on the screen as they come in. Right? I see Calvin. He says yes. Right? Let me see. Jay Highstyle, my buddy Jay Highstyle. How are you, Jay Highstyle? If they are to cleave to Israel, yes, because that's right. They can't circumvent Israel, right? They have to, but we'll deal with it. We'll give some scriptures to really give clarity on that answer. Appreciate it, My buddy Jay Highstyle. Family gives show some love to my buddy Jay Highstyle. All right. Yes. By Cindy Lou. Yes. Alexandria. Yes. Yaquaba. He put here, yes. Joy, yes. Israelite wife Desiree, yes. Inspired identity, put no. Mr. The original, yes. Let me see here. Let me highlight it here. Victor Wheatley, yes. Ernest Higgs, yes. Stay on Fire Ministry, yes. Amiyah, yes. Who else do we have here? Black to My Roots, yes. So yes, so far for the most part, we see yes. Let's see here. If the non-descendants are followers of the way, so you're saying conditional, yes. All right. Ruhama, yes. Let's see here. Ray, graphics designs, yes. All right. So for the most part, mostly everyone responded by typing yes. But we're going to give clarity with scripture. All right. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 56, verse 6. Now, notice what this says. We're going to start at verse 6. This is dealing with the sons of strangers. Sons of strangers are those that are not blood descendants of Israel. Let me say that again. Sons of strangers, they are non-blood descendants of Israel. So we're going to read what it says here. Isaiah chapter 56, verse 6. Right? The first portion of this, right? The scriptures prior to this, right? 4 or 5 deals with the eunuch. But here we're dealing with non-blood descendants of Israel. Also, the sons of the stranger that joined themselves to Yahweh to serve him and to love the name. In other words, Sham, the reputation of Yahweh, to be his servants. Everyone that keepeth thee Shabbath from polluting it and take hold of my covenant. Now, I want you guys to understand the covenant is the 10 commandments, right? And so under the 10 commandments, this is dealing with the 7th day Shabbat. But when you see Shabbat here, this is dealing with the feast days. You see the same thing when we go back here and we see the eunuch, right? Let me see here. It says, for thus says Yahweh unto the eunuchs who keep my Shabbats and choose the things that please me and take hold of my covenant. So we're dealing with two things here. We're dealing with the feast days and we're dealing with the 7th day Shabbat. All right. So again, same thing with the sons of strangers, honoring the Shabbat, the feast days, and taking hold of the 10 commandments. So let's go to the Tanakh, right? This is the Tanakh, reading it from the Tanakh. It says, as for the foreigners who attach themselves to Yahweh, to minister to him, and to love the name Hasham, to love Ahab, Hasham, Yahweh, and to love the name of Yahweh, to be his servants. In other words, Abad or Abadah. All who keep, remember, execute, Shamar, all who execute, all who keep the Shema, or Shabbat, excuse me, and do not profane it, right? Na'atazah or na'ats, do not profane it, and hold fast to my covenant, Barayath. So we see here, right? Those that are non-blood descendants of Israel, we see right here that it makes it clear that they are supposed to keep the Shabbat, as far as the feast days, and also keep the 7th day Shabbat, which falls up under the 10 commandments. So non-blood descendants of Israel have made an assertive effort to profane the Shabbat. And we're going to get into another thing here. We're going to get some history here, right? I know this may rub some people the wrong way, and I'm going to make it clear, family, I'm not here to try to make everyone happy. I can't please everyone. You're going to always have someone complaining about something. But I hope and pray that this helps you, for those that are, want to get clarity about the Shabbat and the feast days. I hope this helps you, because I want to give some more, some additional passages in history, because the Most High didn't do away with the Shabbat, right? But let's continue. So non-blood descendants of Israel have made an assertive effort to profane the Shabbat, doing contrary to what we highlighted in chapter 56, right? So when we go to the Maccabees, right, this was a time of sorrows. This was a time of affliction. Maccabi, right? When we go here, notice what it says here. This is the period prior to Christ, the birth of Christ, right? The period of the Maccabees. Notice what Maccabee chapter 1, very first Maccabees chapter 1, verse 43 through 46 says. Now, I want to make this clear. When I use the Apocrypha, I use it for historical purposes, right? It used to be included in the 1611. Why are they not there now? Why have they been removed? Why? Because some of the things that I'm going to share with you is it will literally throw a major monkey wrench in what we see today that's being celebrated in the church. That's a fact. It even throw a monkey wrench at how Paul's letters are being incorrectly taught. So let's go here. First Maccabees, as we highlighted here, First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 43 through 46. It says this, right? Actually, I'm starting at 44. For the king has sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land. Now they're telling Israel that, you know what, we're going to make it so that way you don't honor the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. You're going to honor the laws of the land, right? Remember, Antiochus was so infatuated with the Greek culture that he wanted to bring the Greek culture here, force it on the Israelites. Verse 45, and forbid burnt offerings, sacrifice, drink offerings, and the temple, and that they should profane the Sha-baths and festival days and pollute the sanctuary and the holy people. So notice the strategy here. To profane the Shabbats, the very thing that the Most High said that the non-blood descendants of Israel had to honor, right? The festival days, so the Shabbats, which is the 7th day is referring to here, the seventh day Shabbat. And then we see the festivals just dealing with the feast days, right? But they didn't stop there. They polluting the sanctuary, the altar, and also what? And who? The holy people of the Most High. So they forbid burnt offerings. In other words, repentance, right? Sacrifices of repentance, drink offerings in the temple. All right. So these are the things that they did. And guess what? We're going to see that these behaviors by the ancestors of these people, the Greeks and the Romans, right? They continue to do the same thing, because also you will see here how they Antiochus and others, right? They made Jerusalem. They were trying to make Jerusalem into Mount Olympus to honor Zeus and those deities, Hercules and all those type of deities of the Greeks and the Romans, Mercurius and all of that stuff. So they wanted to make Jerusalem, right, which is the capital, which is the heart of Israel, the northern and southern kingdom, the heart of Israel. They wanted to make that into Mount Olympus, right? So who created a Shabbat for Catholicism, for the Catholics in Christianity? Who created it? How do we get to this place of what we see today? Why do most churches have services on Sundays? Who changed the Shabbat to Sundays, right? Who created Good Friday? We're going to answer these questions, family. A lot of questions, starting with Constantine. Constantine is responsible for Sunday becoming the Christian and Catholic primary day of worship. No, you know, many would try to go to the scriptures. Hey, look, I'm gonna show you here. Paul, on the first day of the week, Sunday, they were meeting up they were gathering together. But what they won't show you is that they were still going to the temple too. Peter was still going to the temple. The disciples were still going to the temple. They were still sacrificing even after the Messiah ascended. They were still doing certain things. They were still going to the temple. Right. Remember, I believe it's Acts when you get to chapter 4, when Peter healed the cripple, he was going to the temple. He was going through in the area of the porch of of prayer, the porch, Solomon's porch, right, for prayer. Right. So he was going there for prayer at the temple. And the man asked Peter for money. And Peter was like, hey, silver and gold, I don't have gimmicks, AKA Jamal Bryant, with this whole weed nonsense. Say, I don't have gimmicks, but I'll give you Christ. And what happened? He got healed, got up off that ground, and walked inside the temple to pray with them. So Constantine is responsible for Sunday becoming the Christians and Catholic primary day of worship. Because if you read the book of Acts, chapter 13, This will completely knock down the things that people in the church are teaching about the Shabbat. Oh, it was hard to keep the Shabbat. Oh, the Gentiles they're not required to honor the 7th-day Shabbat. But notice this here. This is coming from the history of the Christian church. It says here, right? The civil sanction of the observance of Sunday and other festivals of the church, festival, feast days. That's what it means. The observance of Sundays and other festivals, other celebrations, other feast days of the church. The state indeed should not and cannot enforce this observance upon anyone, but may undoubtedly and should prohibit the public disturbance and profanation of the Christian Shabbat or Sabbath, which is the first day of the week, Sunday, and protect the Christians and their right and duty of its proper observance. Constantine in 321 forbade the sitting of courts and all secular labor in town on the venerable day of the sun, as he expressed himself, perhaps with reference at once to the sun god Apollo and to Christ, the true sun, S-U-N, of righteousness, to his pagan. Remember what we said about the word pagan when we deal with the Greeks and the Romans, right? They're supposed to be civilized countries. That's into idolatry. So to his pagans and to his Christian subjects, but he distinctly permitted the culture of farms and vineyards in the country, because frequently this could be attended to on no other day so well. Though one would suppose that the hardworking, I cut it off there, but we see here in 321 AD, Constantine signed an edict and sanctioned the first day of the week to be the official permanent day, the main day of worship in the church, right? We also see here that Constantine created Good Friday. He created Good Friday, right? Notice what it says here. And at the same time, enjoined the observance of Friday in memory of the death of Christ. So now this is where you get the impossible task of trying to take a 3-day prophecy and truncate it, reduce it down to a day and a half, right? Nay, he went so far in well-meaning but mistaken zeal as to require of his soldiers, even the pagan ones, the positive observance of Sunday by pronouncing at a signal the following prayer. So again, Constantine created Good Friday. He also sanctioned for the first day of the week, Sunday, to be the official day, a corporate day of worship for the Catholic Church, for Christianity, because the Protestants, the Reformation, guess what? Reformations and all that, all those guys came from the Catholic Church. That's why you still see many of the tenets there. But anyway, not only did Constantine have power to change scripture and law, the Pope was supposedly given the same power. So you could really consider Constantine as being the first Pope, even though in the Catholic Church, they'll teach Peter was the first Pope. But again, not only did Constantine have power to change scripture and law, the Pope was supposedly given the same power. So when we go understand this in 1302, Pope Boniface VIII issued a papal bull stating that the Pope has authority over 2 realms. And this is the article that confirms this, right? Notice what it says. The most famous papal document of the Middle Ages affirming the authority of the Pope as their heir of Peter and vicar of Christ over all human authorities, spiritual and temporal. Spiritual power, according to the bull, rests in the hands of the church. Temporal power is in the hands of kings and soldiers, but is to be exercised only as the church permits, because things spiritual are superior to things temporal. If temporal power errs, it is to be judged by the spiritual power. If lesser spiritual power err, it is to be judged by higher spiritual power, all the way up to the supreme spiritual power, right? The supreme, knows what it says, the supreme spiritual power, the papacy itself, referring to the Pope, the papacy as being supreme power, which can be judged only by God. All right. All right. So let's move forward. I don't want to go into all of that. So here's another source about the Shabbat, right? We see that the Pope had the power to do whatever he wanted to do, change scripture and everything. So this is coming from the book called Catholicism for Dummies, third edition, page 256, right? By Reverend John Trigilio Jr. Let's see what he says. He says this, right? And you can see it in the back here. Notice what he says. So why then do Catholic, Protestant, and Orthodox Christians go to church on Sunday, treating it as the Lord's Day? Because truly, the Lord, Yahweh's day, right, is the Shabbat. Treating it as the Lord's Day instead of Saturday. In general, Catholicism and Christianity moved the celebration of the Lord's Day from Saturday to Sunday because Jesus Christ rose from the dead on Easter Sunday, which I got 3 lessons out there. Go watch it as I completely shatter this false teaching here. But in other words, Sunday has become the Christian Sabbath. Wait a minute, but the Most High gave a command. The Most High made it clear in Isaiah chapter 56 that the non-blood descendants of Israel, if they want to have a relationship with the Most High, they had to honor the Shabbats, the feast days, and honor the covenant, which is the 10 commandments, which the Shabbat, the 7-day Shabbat, falls right up under. But here, the Pope changed that. Here, Constantine changed that. Sunday has become the Christian Sabbath, the day of rest to honor the day Christ rose from the dead. Jesus said in the gospel that the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So Christians who wanted to honor their risen Lord on the day of the week that he rose from the dead made Sunday their day of worship instead of the former day of Saturday, which the Hebrews had honored from the time of Moses. Now, when we go to another source, right? Cardinal Gibbons, Faith of Our Fathers, right? Page 89. Notice what this says here, 92nd edition, right? Third, a rule of faith. Notice what it says here. Or a competent guide to heaven must be able to instruct in all the truths necessary for salvation. Now, the scriptures alone do not contain all the truths which a Christian is bound to believe, because now they're dealing with some of the letters of their the supposed church fathers, right? That's what they're referring to here. Nor do they explicitly enjoin all the duties which he obliged to practice. Not to mention other examples, is not every Christian obliged to sanctify Sunday and to abstain on that day from unnecessary server work. Is not the observance of this law among the most prominent of our sacred duties? But you may read in the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, and you will not find a single line of authorizing, in other words, Sunday worship. That's what this is saying. You will not find a single line that's saying that we are supposed to congregate or assemble ourselves on the first day of the week. That is now the Shabbat. There's not a single line of text that supports that. But we're not going to stop here, family. We're not going to stop here, right? Notice what it says. You will not find a single line authorizing the sanctification of Sunday. The scripture enforced the religious observance of Saturday, Shabbat, a day, the 7th day, which we never sanctify. Notice what it says. It says a day which we never sanctify. All right. Here's another source, right? This is coming from the Sabbath question from the Roman Catholic standpoint, right? Let's see what it says. As stated by the Catholic Mirror, together with introduction and remarks by Abram Herbert Lewis. Notice what it says here. The Christian Sabbath, the genuine offspring of the union of the Holy Spirit with the Catholic Church. His spouse, second, the claim of Protestantism to any part therein proved to be groundless, self-contradictory, and suicidal. The first proposition needs little proof. The Catholic Church for over 1,000 years before the existence of a Protestant movement, by virtue of her divine mission, changed the day from Saturday to Sunday. Come on, family. Come on, family. Paul didn't change the day. Paul was still honoring the Shabbats. That's why he had to go to meet back up in Jerusalem to prove to them that he's not teaching against Moses. And we could read 1 Corinthians chapter 5 and see how Paul was teaching them to honor the feast days. So for 1,000 years before the existence of a Protestant, by virtue of her divine mission, changed the day from Saturday to Sunday. We say by virtue of her divine mission, because he who called himself the Lord of the Sabbath. So did the Messiah refer to himself as Lord of the Sabbath? Guess what? He did. But let me put it in this proper perspective. Let's put it in this proper context, right? Did the Messiah change the Shabbat? I'm going to tell you, absolutely not. Is the Messiah our Shabbat? Absolutely not, because that's some of the things that you hear some of the people within the church, as far as some of the apologists will teach. They would teach that, hey, Christ is our rest. He's our Shabbat. That's not scripture. That's not biblical. And we're going to give clarity. We're going to answer these questions, starting with Matthew chapter 11, verse 28 and 29. It says, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Family, let's take a survey here. Is this referring to the Shabbat in this particular verse? If it's referring to the Sabbath or Shabbat, type 1. If you believe that it's not, type 2. Is this verse saying that Christ is the Shabbat? Type 1. If it's not, type 2. I'll say it again. Is Christ saying that he is the Shabbat? Type 1. If you believe he's saying that he's the Shabbat, or if you disagree, say he's not saying he's the Shabbat, type 2. All right. Or you can say yes or no. All right. So is Christ in this text saying that he is the Shabbat? Yes. 2 for no. All right. So far, Daniel Floyd, no. Joy, no. Right. Victorious Ron, no. My buddy Jay Highstyle, no. Ernest Higgs, no. V Cannon 09, no. Right. Victor Wheatley, no. Israelite wife, right? Desiree, no. Andrea Leggett, no. Amiya Yakita, no. Right? So far, everyone is correct. And I'm going to prove it here. Right? We have Mr. The Original, no. Yvette Rivera, no. And peace and blessings to my sister. Thank you for the love and support. Yaquaba, no. Lamar Thorne, no. Ruhama Shema, no. Stacy Pullum, no. Right? Tan Aya, no. Major, no. All right. So far, it looks like it's unanimous, right? No. Everyone agreed. No. Christ did not say that he is the Shabbat. That is completely false. And I'm going to prove it here. The Greek definition of rest inside this text, right? Notice what it says here, right? And notice what word we see here. We don't see Sabbath or Sabbaton. That's the Greek word for Shabbat. We see anapawa, right? Or anapao, right? We see it says here, refresh, take ease, refresh, rest. Verse 3, entry number 3, to keep quiet, of calm. Guess what? 2 Hebrew words, right? Knock means to settle down, calm, right? Karash, be quiet, right? That phrase, karash knock, can transliterate to peace be still. But it has nothing to do with the Shabbat. Because if it did, you'll see Sabbaton here. But that's not what's in this text. So Christ is not saying that he is the Shabbat. That is a complete lie. And anyone that is teaching that, they are a worker of iniquity. They are a worker of iniquity. Anyone that's teaching that Christ is our Shabbat, they are a worker of iniquity. And hey, if any one of you guys know, or if someone watching here believe that I'm incorrect, feel free to jump on. I'm gonna drop the link inside here. Feel free to drop on, and we can talk about it. Which scripture, right? Which sources? All right. So the Greek definition. Let's look at what the Greek word for Shabbat is. Notice what it says here. Sabbaton. You will not find Sabbaton in that text that I highlighted. Notice what Sabbaton means. It says the Shabbat, right? See, it has the Hebrew. It says Hebrew, and it gives the Strong's numbering 7676. Notice what it says, Shabbath. Why? Because that's the proper pronunciation of the word from a Hebraic perspective. Shabbath, right? The Sabbath. That's still a Greek pronunciation. Sabbath. An example, Shabbath. So don't let anyone try to mock you. Remember, G. Craig Lewis was trying to mock, Sabbath, Shabbat. It's Shabbat. What's Shabbat? He's trying to mock that and had no clue of what he was talking about. So it goes on to say the Shabbat could be a day of the week, right? But it also tells us here it could be the interval between two Shabbats. In other words, a week. The Shabbat could be a week. All right. And it says here, likewise, the plural in all the above applications. Sabbath could be a day. Shabbat could be a day. It could be a week. It could be a month. It could be a year. Right. So this put things in its proper perspective, even when we're dealing with the resurrection, because there was more than one Shabbat. Sabbaton is plural. We'll deal with that another time. Or watch the presentation I did, which is in the foundational playlist. Right? I think it's titled He Rose, but what day? The resurrection, what day? It's 3 parts to that. It's very detailed. All right. But anyway, so is the Messiah our Shabbat? No. Did the Messiah refer to himself as the Lord of the Shabbat or Adonai of the Shabbat? I'm going to give you clarity. He did, but let's put it in its proper perspective. Did the Messiah change the Shabbat? No, because he would have broke the law. Mark chapter 2, verse 23 through 28, he would go against his own father if he changed the Shabbat, because the Most High created this permanent salute. And it came to pass that he went through the cornfield on the fields on this Shabbat, right? The Shabbat day. And his disciples began as they went to pluck the ears of corn. And the Pharisees said unto him, behold, why do they on the Shabbat day that which is not lawful? So they want to make it seem like the disciples are harvesting and all that, when actually, they did some work with the Messiah in terms of healing and that type of stuff, ministry. Now they're hungry. They grabbing some corn to eat. So now they're being confronted. The Pharisees said unto him, behold, why do they on the Sabbath day or Shabbat day that which is not lawful? We're going to answer this question. Notice what Christ says. And he said unto them, have ye never read what David did? Have ye never read what David did when he had need and was an hungered? He and they that were with him. Oh man, this Christ gave him a blow right here because they couldn't respond after he said this. Verse 26, how he went into the house of Yahweh in the day of Abiathar, the high priest, and did eat the shewbread, which is not lawful to eat but for the priests, and gave also to them which were with him. Verse 27, he said unto them, the Shabbat was made for man, and not man for the Shabbat. Therefore, Son of Man is, and when we see here, Son of Man by Ban Adam, Son of Man, right? Therefore, the Son of Man is Adonai also of the Shabbat. So he said that he's Lord of the Shabbat, because that word Adonai transliterates to master, it transliterates to Lord. But let's give clarity. Let's see what this word means. From the Greek, this is what it means. It's a salutation, respectful title. But when we go to the Hebrew, right? Notice what it says. The key that I want to highlight here in reference to men, superintendent of household. So why is this important? The high priest is the superintendent of the temple. Christ is saying that he's the superintendent. So the superintendent of the temple, they had the power to make not they didn't change the law, but they made situational exceptions. And what Christ pointed out was a situational exception. It wasn't a permanent law, but there was a situation. The Hebrew word for master, Adonaiah, is also used as a salutation of respect, such as Mr. or Sir. Now, I'm not going to get into the etymology. I don't want to get into all of this. So, again, the high priest is the superintendent of the house of Yahweh and have the authority to make individual situational exceptions. And we could confirm this was 1 Samuel chapter 1, verse 15. Notice what it says here. And it came to pass as she continued praying for Yahweh that Eli marked her mouth. Now Hannah, she spake in her heart, only her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. Shemai. Therefore, Eli thought she had been drunken. Goes on to say, Hannah answered and said, No, my Lord, Adonaiah. Now, this is just dealing with the word Adonaiah. I'm showing you that it means superintendent of the house. And we see that how Hannah referred to Eli as Adonaiah. In other words, superintendent. He's the superintendent of the house. So that's what I wanted to point out with that text. So again, the high priest is the superintendent of the house of Yahweh and have the authority to make individual situational exceptions. And likewise, he had the authority to make, in other words, when I say he, Christ, the Messiah, had the authority to make situational exceptions. Right. So that's what that passage is dealing with. I didn't put the scriptures here, but when you go back and read it, Christ is saying, just like the high priest made an exception for David and his soldiers to eat the shewbread that's designated for the priest. It was for that situation. It wasn't a permanent thing. Christ likewise had the same authority to do the same thing. Right. Think about this. He asked the question, not in this particular passage, if your ox get caught up in the ditch, if your ox gets stuck in the ditch, what is the ox? The ox, right? The first letter of the Hebrew aleph bayat is the ox head, right? It's the ox, the alap, which means is the numerical value is number one. So what Christ is saying, if your number one source of income is in the ditch, are you going to leave the ox in the ditch and let it die? No, they're saying you're going to make an exception to the rules to what? Pull that ox out of the ditch. Now, all of you guys been there before that you don't work on the weekend, you don't work on a Shabbat, but something came up and there's an emergency. That happened to me before because I make it clear that I don't work on a Shabbat, right? But there was an exception where there was a system that was down. There was, this is getting into the technology, the IT stuff. But guess what? I was the only one that knew how to rectify the issue. So they called me up and I said, hey, I'm honoring the Shabbat. I'll come in after our Shabbat service. I'll come in and I'll take a look at it, right? And I'll resolve the issue. I went in, took a look at it prior to service, left, honored the Shabbat, had the celebration and everything, and then went back there and fixed the problem. My point that I'm making is there's situational exceptions, but it's not a permanent, it's not changing the law. It's just that the Most High is not a robot. The priests are not a robot. This is where you get into grace. This is where you get into discernment. So there was a situational exception that was made, family. We got people that travel from over 2 hours away to our assembly. Now, they have to get gas. Are they in sin because they put gas in their car? Or are they supposed to just wait there, sit there for hours until after the Shabbat and then fill their car up? Come on, family. There are situational exceptions. All right. And that's what Christ is saying. If the high priests have the authority to make a situation exception to the rules to allow the disciples to eat, guess what? David and his soldiers to eat, he made the same situational exception to his disciples doing the work of the Most High that, hey, grab you a couple of those ears of corn and eat. It's not work. That's getting you something to eat. Anyway, so let's go to another source here. right? Let's go to another source here, right? Notice what this says here. The Protestant world at its birth found the Christian's Sabbath too strongly entrenched to run counter to its existence. It was therefore placed under the necessity of acquiescing in the arrangement, thus implying the church's right to change the day. Come on, family. This wasn't the Most High. The Most High made it clear the non-blood descendants of Israel is supposed to honor the Shabbat, the 7-day Shabbat. They don't have the power to change it. Implying the church's right to change the day for over 300 years. It says here, the Christian Shabbat, Sabbath is therefore to this day the acknowledged offspring of the Catholic Church as spouse of the Holy Ghost, without a word of remonstrance from the Protestant world. Let us now, however, take a glance at our second proposition, with the Bible alone as the teacher and guide in faith and morals. This teaching mostly emphatically forbids any change in the day for paramount reason. So it making it clear in the scripture. It makes it clear that there's no reason, that there's not a single line of text that says or give the okay to change the Shabbat. That's what this is saying. The command calls for a perpetual covenant. So the Shabbat is perpetual. That's what this is saying. But guess what? The day commanded to be kept by the teacher has never once been kept, thereby developing an apostasy, right? From an assumably fixed principle as self-contradictory, stultifying, and consequently as suicidal. All right. So you just see here, it's making it clear that the church, the non-blood descendants of Israel, changed the Shabbat. They made Sunday their Shabbat celebration. Right. And that's all this is saying here. All right. And here you see a mockery, a delusion, a snare. Okay. I'm not getting into all of this. I'm just fast forwarding to get through here. So the Shabbat is a sign. I put here, I asked the question, is the Shabbat a sign? Guess what? It is a sign. The Shabbat is also a sign, mark, proof, evidence of the covenant the Most High made with Israel. When we go to Exodus chapter 31, verse 13 through 17, notice what it says here. And family, you see here, as I pointed out, right in the same chapter at verse 18, and he gave unto Moses when he had made an end of communing with him upon Mount Sinai, the two tables of testimony, tables of stone written with the finger of the Most High, which is the 10 commandments. All right. But notice what it says here. Verse 13, speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, verily, my Shabbats, right? We see Shabbat, right? Ye shall keep. This is a commandment. Ye shall keep, right? Shamar, keep, execute, for it is a sign, awath, between me and you throughout your generations, perpetual, that ye may know that I am Yahweh that doeth sanctify you. Verse 14, ye shall keep the Shabbat. This is not an option. Therefore, it is holy unto you. Everyone that defileth shall surely be put to death. For whosoever doeth any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. Verse 15, 6 days may work be done. This is what the Most High did on the first 6 days of creation, right? But in the seventh is the Shabbat, rest, holy. We see the word rest, right? Shabbat, rest. Then we see holy, quadash. It's ordained, consecrated to the Most High, Yahweh. Whosoever doeth any work in the Shabbat day, he shall surely be put to death. Verse 16, wherefore the children of Israel shall keep, it's a command here, the Shabbat, to observe the Shabbat throughout their generations. Excuse me. For a perpetual covenant, awalam, bayath, or excuse me, barayath or barit, right? A perpetual covenant. It is a sign. Notice what it says. It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. For in 6 days, Yahweh made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. So this passage alone completely shuts down any teachings that say the Most High worked into the Shabbat. That's completely false, right? Verse 18, and he gave unto Moses, when he had made an end of communing with him upon Mount Sinai, 2 tables of testimony, tables of stone, written with the finger of Elohim. Some of you guys would say Elohim. So the Most High wrote this with his own hands. But the church would teach that no one can honor this, that it was a weight, that it's a burden. There's not a line of text that says that. So my Shabbats, ye shall keep, for it is a sign. Again, Hebrew definition of the word sign, awath or ath, it says a signal, evidence, mark, miracle, proof. So the Shabbat is a signal. It's evidence. It is a mark. It is proof. It is evidence. So here's a key sign that was given to Israel. Notice this, family. This is the disciples on Matthew chapter 17, verse 1 through 3. Notice what they see here. After 6 days, Yahweh Shai, in other words, Jesus the Christ, taketh Peter, James, John, his brother, and bringeth them up into an high mountain apart, and was transfigured before them. And his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as the light. Wait a minute. Notice here. Let's go back. I want y'all to see here. After 6 days. So this is on the Shabbat. After 6 days, on the 7th day, which is the Shabbat, Christ transfigured to his disciples on the Shabbat, was transfigured before them, and his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as the light. And behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elias. They saw a miracle here on the Shabbat, a sign, proof, evidence, talking with him. After 6 days, then Mark 9, chapter 1 through 3, right? Notice what it says here. After 6 days, Jesus taketh him, Peter and James and John. So they're still giving confirmation, because Mark is saying the same thing on the Shabbat. This is the Shabbat. After 6 days, which is the Shabbat, Christ transfigured before them, right? So Mark is bearing the same witness, same testimony. And another sign is the resurrection. There's not a line of text that says Christ was resurrected on the first day of the week. It let us know that on the first day of the week, right? Christ is already gone. The Marys came to the sepulcher early, at dawn, early. Christ is already gone. Anyway, family, right? Glory, kabod, means, in a good sense, numerous, rich, honorable, glorified. And this is similar to, can be used synonymous to the Hebrew word sham, which means reputation, right? Reputation, authority, character, right? It could be a memorial of individuality, but we see fame, reputation, glory, okay? So Paul gave a stern warning about the Shabbats, family. Notice this, right? We almost did. I know I'm covering a lot of passages here, but let's see what the warning that Paul gave about the Shabbats. Let me do something here. Let's see how far we are. We're getting there. Yeah, we're getting there. Paul gave a stern warning about the Shabbats. All right, let's see where we are. All right, yeah, we almost did, family. We got a little more to go. All right, we almost did, though. Let me show you what Paul said, because people say, well, Paul said, and this is a passage that many within the churches use incorrectly, teaching against the Shabbat, honoring the Shabbat and the feast days. But they got it wrong, family. Actually, I want to show you, it's actually teaching against Christmas, Easter, Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, Lent, Ash Wednesday, Palm Sunday. I'm going to prove it here. Colossians chapter 2, verse 16 through 19. This is what many will go to. Let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink or in respect to an holy day or of the new moon or of the Sabbath days, which are a shadow of things to come. But the body is of Hamashiach, in other words, Jesus the Christ. But again, this is what they would use. It goes on to say, let no man beguile you. In other words, trick you of your reward in a voluntary humility and worshiping of angels, intruding into those things which he hath not seen, vainfully puffed up by his fleshly mind. Verse 19, and not holding the head, from which all the body by joints and bands having nourishment ministered and knit together increaseth with the increase of Yahweh. So guess what? This is what they would show. This is what they would go to. Is Apostle Paul teaching against honoring the feast days and the Shabbat? Is he teaching against the commandments inside this text? Family, no. Here's the nugget. Here's the key. Who is Paul actually who is Paul actually speaking and warning against? Well, the answer is here. Let's go to verse 4-8. Notice what it says. And this I say, lest any man should beguile you with enticing words. For though I be absent in the flesh, yet I am with you in the spirit, joying and beholding your order and the steadfastness of your faith in Hamashiach, in other words, the Christ. As ye have therefore received Hamashiach, which is Christ, Yahushai, Adonai, which transliterates to the Lord, so walk ye in him, rooted and built up in him, and established in the faith as ye have been taught, abounding therein with thanksgiving. Right? It goes on to say, verse 8, here's the kicker. Beware lest any man spoil you through theologies. Philosophies. Come on, family. Theology is just a glorified term that's synonymous to philosophies, Christian philosophies. I understand theos mean God and ology, study of. I understand all of that, but you have over 30 plus thousand different theologies just within Christianity alone, Christianity and Catholicism, not even getting into Islam, Mohammedanism. So beware lest any man spoil you through theologies, right? Philosophies, in other words, and vain deceit after the traditions of men. Highlight this this phrase here, after the traditions of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Hamashiach, in other words, the Christ. Now we're gonna knock this out the park here. That's key right here. After the tradition of men. So who is Paul actually speaking and warning against? I want to show you here. Lest any man spoil you through philosophy, in other words, theologies, and vain deceit after the tradition of men. Paul is actually speaking against those who are teaching the tradition of men. The commandments is not of man. The feast days is not of man. Those are the Most High. As we saw in Exodus 31, the Most High wrote the covenant, wrote these tablets with his own hands and gave it to Moses. So tradition of men is synonymous to the traditions of the elders. I'm going to let Christ explain what Paul was saying. Matthew 15, verse 1-3. Let's see what it says here. It says, then came Yahushai, in other words, Jesus the Christ, right? It says, then came to Yahushai, Jesus the Christ, scribes and Pharisees, which were of Jerusalem, saying, why do thy disciples, lamad, which means skilled at learning, lamad, disciples, transgress the traditions of the elders, zakwan. So they're focused on the traditions of the elders, for they wash not their hands when they eat bread. Family, this chapter has nothing to do with dietary laws. This is the disciples' hands were dirty and they're eating with dirty hands. So when the scripture says it's not what comes or goes into the mouth that defiles the person, is what comes out. This is saying Nothing about the dietary laws. If you're eating with your hands dirty, it does not defile you. That's all it's saying, family. Let me make it clear again. When it says that, it has nothing to do with the dietary laws. It has everything to do with eating with dirty hands. And that's what they're dealing with right here. Right? For they wash not their hands when they eat bread. Verse 3. Notice this comeback here. But Yahushua, Jesus, answered and said unto them, why do ye also transgress the commandment of Yahweh by your traditions? Wait a minute. So the Pharisees and the scribes are pushing traditions of the elders far as washing of the hands, right? There are laws that's for the priests about washing their hands in the temple, right? Before they start dealing with their burnt offering and all that. But that has nothing to do with what they're teaching here. They're teaching tradition. Now, I'm not advocating not wash your hands before you eat, but guess what? There was no law about that. That's tradition of the elders. But Yahushua answered and said unto them, why do ye also transgress the commandments of Yahweh by your traditions? So Christ is focusing on the commandments of the Most High. Notice he said commandment of Yahweh by your traditions, right? So here's the law of hand washing. Exodus chapter 30, verse 18 through 21 has nothing to do with eating, and it's dealing with the priests. It says, and Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, thou shalt make a laver of brass, and his foot also of brass to wash withal, and thou shalt put it between the tabernacle of the congregation and the altar, and thou shalt put water therein. And it says, for Aaron and his sons shall wash rakat or rakatazah their hands and their feet thereat. When they go into the tabernacle of the congregation, they shall wash rakatazah or rakats with water, mayam, that they die not. And when they come near to the altar to minister to the burnt offering made by fire unto Yahweh, so shall they wash their hands and their feet, that they die not, and it shall be a statute forever to them, even to him and to his seed throughout their generations. Right? So again, that's dealing with washing the hands. Aaron and his sons shall wash their hands when performing functions within the temple. The second major piece of furniture in the courtyard of the tabernacle was the bronze wash basin. The bronze wash basin played a very significant role in the priest's service to the Most High, to Yahweh. The bronze basin was placed between the tabernacle and the altar of burnt offering before a priest could go into the holy place and most holy place. His first order of business was at the altar of burnt offering. And so the bronze washing basin was the next step in following the path of holiness of entering into the presence of Yah. The sole purpose of the bronze wash basin was for the priests to wash their hands and to wash their feet. We confirmed this with Leviticus chapter 15, verse 2 and 3. Notice what we see here, right? This is dealing with someone that's diseased that may have, let's just say, leprosy. There's different forms of leprosy, but notice what this says here. Speaking to the children of Israel and saying to them, when any man hath a running issue out of his flesh, because of his issue, he is unclean. And this shall be his uncleanness in his issue, whether his flesh run with his issue or his flesh be stopped from his issue. It is his uncleanness. So this is dealing with washing hands. If coming in contact with someone that's unclean, right? The law of washing hands and feet were for the priest. So that is still dealing with the priest, what I just highlighted. The other law of washing hands involves a man and a woman who is experiencing discharges, right? Has nothing to do with eating food. Washing hand before eating is a man-made tradition. Now, if people don't go home or don't deal with your spouse or don't tell them that I'm telling you guys don't wash your hands before you eat. I'm just making it clear. There's no law about that. So Matthew 15, verse 7 and 9, just giving some further confirmation here, right? Ye hypocrites, well did Isaiah prophesy of you, saying, this people draw nigh unto me with their mouth. In other words, honoreth me with their lips. In other words, lip service, but their hearts is far from me. But in vain they do worship me, teaching for doctrines, the commandments of men. So we see the commandments, the traditions of the elders. We see traditions of the men. We see the commandments of men that's highlighted here. So Christ is saying that there are people that is all about lip service, but they are so busy teaching traditions, commandments of man, not the commandments of the Most High. He said, ye hypocrites. Well, did Isaiah prophesy of you? Say, what did Isaiah say? Well, let's see what Isaiah said, right? Doctrine of the commandments of men is also referred to as the precept of men as well. So we have the tradition of man that's synonymous to the tradition of the elders, which is synonymous to commandments of men, which is synonymous to precept of men. Now let's give proof. Isaiah chapter 29, verse 13. Wherefore Yahweh, in other words, transliterates to the Lord, said, for as much as this people draw near me with their mouth and with their lips do honor me, but have removed their heart far from me, and their fear towards me is taught by the precepts of men. This is what Christ is echoing. Come on, family. We calling it all out. I'm giving you scripture after scripture proof to show that Paul never taught against the commandments. He never taught against the feast days. He was actually teaching against those that are pushing traditions of men, philosophies, and all. That's what he was teaching against. So did Paul teach against honoring the feast days and the Shabbat? Absolutely not. Did the Apostle Paul honor the Passover? Guess what? Let's see here. Acts chapter 18, verse 21. Bade them farewell. I must by all means keep Shamar, this feast, Chag, that cometh in Jerusalem, but I will return again, right, unto you if Elohim will, if he will, if it's in his will. And he sailed from Ephesus. So Paul making it a point to come back and honor the feast day, right? Did the early church honor the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, right? I don't like to use the word church because that word was not used at that time, but for the sake of the presentation, right, it's actually assembly, all right? But anyway, what was the ethnicity of the assembly of the Corinth, the assembly of the Corinths? What was their nationality? Did they need a blood sacrifice? See, this is also knocking down that thing where they say, oh, you can't honor the feast days. You can't do Passover because you need a sacrifice. But Paul did not use a sacrifice. He did not teach them to pull out a lamb, right? Notice what Paul says, 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 7 and 8. He's teaching honoring the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Notice what he says here. Purge out therefore the old leaven, that ye may be a new lump, as ye are unleavened. For even Mashiach, Christ, our Passover, Pasach, is sacrificed for us. Goes on to say, therefore, let us keep the feast. Come on, family. You can't get any plainer than that. It says, let us keep the feast. Let me read it one more time, family. Let me read it one more time. It says, therefore, let us keep the feast.
What?
Do I need to say it in slow motion? Therefore, let's us keep the feast. For the people in the back. Therefore, let us keep, Shamar, execute the feast, Chag, not with old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity. Family, we can't get around it. We cannot get around it. We got to give them the garbage can. Anyone that's teaching that Paul taught against the feast days and the commandments. So Apostle Paul in Colossians is actually teaching against those who celebrate Christmas, who celebrate Easter. Let me say that again. Let me make sure you guys understand this, right? So Apostle Paul in Colossians chapter 2 is actually teaching against those who celebrate Christmas, celebrate Easter, those who celebrate St. Patrick's Day, those who celebrate Valentine's Day, those who celebrate Thanksgiving, those who celebrate Palm Sunday, those who celebrate Ash Wednesday, those who celebrate Lent, right? And other traditions of men who are attempting to judge against those who honor the holy days of Yahweh. Going back to Colossians chapter 2, verse 4 through 8, going right back here. Let's read it one more time. It says, "And this I say, lest any man beguile you with enticing words, for though I be absent in the flesh, yet I am with you in the spirit, joying and beholding your order and fastness of your faith in Hamashiach," in other words, Christ. "As ye have therefore received Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai," in other words, Jesus the Christ, Adonai Yah, in other words, the Lord. "So walk ye in him, rooted and built up in him, and established in the faith," right? Aman, consistency, trust, faith, going to the right hand, "as ye have been taught, abounding therein with thanksgiving. Beware lest any man spoil you through theologies, through philosophy of vain deceit, after their tradition, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Hamashiach," in other words, Christ. So guess what, family? This is what is dealing with that right here. After the traditions of men, Christmas is of the traditions of men. So guess what? Is Christmas, right? Is Easter? Is Thanksgiving? Is pastor's anniversary? Is church anniversary? Is Lent? Is Ash Wednesday? Is Palm Sunday? And etc. Are these traditions of men, or are these commandments of the Most High? Are they? Are they? Here's your answer right here. These are traditions of men. That's right. I brought up pastor anniversary. I brought up church anniversary. I added that to here as well. Those are traditions of men. The Holy Convocation, those are traditions of men. Come on, family. Come on, family. You guys are going to have to catch a lot of this back in the replay, because I'm giving you a lot of information here. So is the Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread, blowing of the trumpets, Day of Atonement, Feast of Tabernacles, Feast of Dedication, and honoring the seventh-day Sha-bath, are these traditions of man? Are these traditions of men? Are these commandments of men? Come on, family. Are these traditions of the elders? And I'm telling you, absolutely not. So let's give a three-piece for anyone that is teaching this as if these are traditions of men. Give them a three-piece. A couple of sides. And let's toss them out. Let's give them their orders to go. Family, we done shut it down. We shut it down. These are the feasts of Yahweh. That these feasts belong to the Most High. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 37. Even though we could go all the way to the beginning of the chapter and see it there. But it says, these are the feasts of Yahweh. Let me say that again. These are the feasts of Yahweh. For the people in the back. These are the feasts of Yahweh, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations. Come on, family. If you guys could go to those holy convocations in Kojic, those holy convocations or conventions while you in the Baptist church or the Methodist church, guess what? You can honor the feast days because the feast days is the true holy convocations of the Most High. Makwara. Kwadash Makwara. Come on, family. We got to keep it real here. If you can honor pastor's anniversary, if you can have a church anniversary, then you can honor the Feast of Dedication. If you can honor Thanksgiving, then you can honor the Passover. If you can honor all these different man-made holidays, you can honor the Day of Atonement. You can honor the blowing of the trumpets. You can honor the Feast of Tabernacles. You can honor these things. Come on, family. I'm willing to talk to any pastor that says that I'm not teaching the word correctly, that what I'm saying is not true. We can have a discussion. I know that you will not have a single verse that would justify anything that you would try to say to me in this regards. Apostle Paul speaks against Christmas. That's what Colossians is talking about. Those that are pushing Christmas, trying to judge you, make you feel guilty about honoring the feast days. Those that are made up, honoring the edicts, the commandments of the Pope, trying to make you feel bad for honoring the Shabbath. Christ never changed it. Christ never said honor his death on the first day of the week. Christ never said honor his birthday, celebrate his birthday on December 25th. Christ never said those things. Actually, it wasn't until like the 4th century that the church even began to start celebrating a birthday, a born day for Christ. Come on, family. These are traditions of men. These are traditions of men, right? These are traditions of men. Family, and we just got to our last slide. There you have it, family. I'm going to drop the link in the comment section. If anyone want to jump in before we wrap up, I'm going to drop it in. But I hope this blesses you. I hope this gives you proper clarity because I really want to do episode 2. And guess what? We got a couple more episodes we're going to go through because really this lesson is actually it's like 12, 13 different lessons, right? But I'm going to drop the link here. And I hope this blesses you. I hope this gives you proper clarity. I hope and pray that this gives you proper clarity, gives you the scriptures that you need. So that way, if you're ministering to your brothers and sisters, that you have the scriptures that you can properly use in the proper context to show that, hey, we're supposed to honor the Shabbat, not these feast days of man. So I dropped the link in the comment section for anyone that want to come in before we transition, right? But I hope this blesses you. I hope this gave you proper clarity. I hope that and pray that this answers some questions. But we got some more some additional questions we're going to answer. We're going to deal with the first 3 verses of Genesis. We're also going to deal with the angels when the angels were created. We're going to deal with those things. Those are 2 separate episodes that I'm going to work on. I just got to clean up the presentation because these are old presentations, so I got to bring them up to date to make them look more like the presentation I just presented. And then we're going to get into as well Genesis chapter 2. We're going to break down Genesis chapter 2 as well, especially getting to the law of sin and death. We're going to deal with that. All right. So with that being said, family, I'm going to give it another minute or so for those that anyone that may want to jump in, have something that you want to share, right? So I appreciate it, Jay High Style. Yes, give me a holler offline. Really appreciate you. So I'll drop it one more time for anyone else. If anyone want to jump on and have a comment to share, I'll drop it one last time. But if not, we'll go ahead and conclude. So right now, I want to give the garbage can to anyone that is teaching the scriptures incorrectly, that's putting strongholds on the people, that are teaching that the laws are done away. I want to give them a garbage can. Garbage can to those that are teaching Colossians, that chapter 2, incorrectly, as if the Most High is, or as if the Apostle Paul taught against the feast days. My brother here, Yaquaba, how you doing, my brother? I saw you in the back here.
Shalom, Pastor and family.
Shalom to you. Shalom to you. Appreciate you. Appreciate the love and support.
You're welcome, Pastor. I just want to come on here and tell you that your work has really been helpful to me and my household. And my wife, she recently she started calling on the original name of the Most High. And I just don't know how to, you know what I'm saying, how to tell you how grateful I am that you continue to press on in spite of all of the mockery and things that we get as a people.
Oh, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you. And it comes with the territory, because Christ, he got mocked. People mocked him and did everything that they could do to undermine his ministry. And we're his servants, so we're going to be subjected to the same scrutiny. So I really appreciate the love and support. Really do.
And one thing I want to say before I go, I was studying on the word Shabbat, right? And I found out, I think it's H7626, that Shabbat is spelled with the Sha and the Ba and the Ba and the Ta. And it is for tribe, right? So when they say Shabbat in Yiddish, they're saying or what they say modern Hebrew, they're actually saying tribe, and then they say shalom. But when you say it in ancient Hebrew, because that word in ancient Hebrew, Shabbat, is actually tribe. And when you say Shabbatha, when you say Shabbat, you're actually saying the Sabbath day. And that's what I was getting from it. But it's two different languages, just like in English, if you call somebody a Negro, well, in American English, if you call somebody an N-word, they're gonna be mad at you. But if you say a Negro, then they'll understand. But it's still the same word, but it's spoken in different ways and gives different understandings, whatever different language it is. And that's what I
And
want.
you hit it right on the nail, because words have meaning, letters have meaning, like you pointed out. Shabbat is tribes. It also means scepter, right? You'll see the word scepter there associated with that word. But it's a difference of saying it with the tha versus with the what many would say refer to as the tet, but it's actually the tot in ancient Hebrew. But it's a difference between saying Shabbat versus Shabbath, as you just pointed out. One letter can change the entire word, and just what you pointed out. And family, he's absolutely correct. And so when you hear somebody say Shabbat, right, that's what it actually refers to: people, tribe. Scepter, right? When you hear them say Sabbath, Sabbath is actually it's a Greek transliteration of it, but the word is Shabbat, right? So really appreciate that. Anything else you wanted to share, my brother?
I just made y'all a playlist, Pastor. I got a playlist of you and other brothers and sisters on there, so that they can come through there and they can give you some likes. And I try not to put a lot of my videos in it, because I don't want to, you know what I mean, how some people try to use other people in order to, and I don't want to be like that. So I try to lessen my videos because I want my brothers and sisters to get what's due to them. So I want you to keep on going, Pastor. And I'm gonna do all I can on my end. I don't have much, but I work with what I got.
Hey, I appreciate it. Appreciate the love and support, and thank you for. Appreciate the integrity. It's not a lot of us out here that's really operating in the integrity. And in Hebrew, it tamayam transliterates to perfect. And we're required to be perfect. We're required to operate in integrity. It's not many of us that are operating in the integrity that the Most High requires of us. So I really appreciate it, my brother. Really appreciate it. Anyone you wanted, or anything you want to throw inside the garbage can?
False doctrine, period. The Pope them, they trying to run stuff that they really didn't have the sanction to run. And I was thinking about this too, like the law of sin, right? So you have a law of sin and death that Shawal was talking about inside of the book of Romans. Well, the letter to the Romans, the Hebrews in Rome. And in that letter, he was telling them that the law of sin and death worketh in the sons of disobedience, but the law of the Rawak and life worketh in the sons of Alahayim, who are the called out. Now I put that in paraphrase, but that's what I believe Shawal was saying when he was telling them that the law of sin and death died in me. So those who operate in the law of sin and death will by law become, they will do things that's lawless because it is the law of the world. So the law of the world is the law of sin and death. So when the Pope, this is how he got this dominion, because the wicked, they got that right there because we as a nation fell away from our from what we were supposed to be doing. And I don't like to say that we weak and all that right there. I believe that we lost our strength when we disobeyed the commandment of the Most High and started doing after the other nation.
Absolutely. And I'm going to do a lesson that's part of, actually, believe it or not, it's part of this atmosphere change, and give clarity what Paul was dealing with, especially when we're dealing with not being under the law of sin and death, right? And that ties right into the law that was there from the very beginning in Genesis chapter 2, when Adam was giving the law. Hey, if you eat this, you shall surely die, right? That's the law of sin and death. And so Christ, through his death, burial, and resurrection, he removed that law, that penalty, that eternal penalty over us. So yeah, I'm going
Yes.
to really teach that, because I do have a lesson that I had part of this series here. And I'm going to really go into the details of that, what Paul was saying about this, because Paul mentioned a number of different laws, like the law of Christ, and I want to cover that to see exactly what Paul meant when he was dealing with the law of sin and death.
Yes, sir. Well, I gotta go, Pastor. My wife calling me.
Hey, like the Most High said to Abraham, listen to your wife.
Yes, sir.
So I appreciate it. Tell the missus I said hi, and thank you again for the love and support.
Okay, I will. And
All right.
I'll probably be back up here some more time if you request. Uh, I do have a little bit of things going on, but I know when y'all got things going on, I try to sit in the back. But it's really up to you, Pastor. If you want to call me up, I'll come up and I'll give a couple of words or whatever.
Okay. We'll do. Well, hey man, I appreciate it. Listen to your wife.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
Right. So but yeah, we'll do. I'll be out of YouTube jail Tuesday, I guess. But love you, man, and enjoy the rest of your weekend, okay?
You too, Pastor.
All right. Shalom.
Shalom.
All right, family, we're going to go ahead and call it a night. We're going to take it down. I'm going to take it down myself because I got to do some things tomorrow. But really appreciate you, family. And the words of Moses as he encouraged Israel in Exodus chapter 14, verse 13 and 14, as they were dealing with what seemed to be a dead end. And the Egyptians were coming to kill many of them and bring them right back into bondage. Moses had to share these words with them under the instructions of the Most High. He said to them, "Fear ye not, stand still, see the salvation of Yahweh. These Egyptians that you see today, you will never have to deal with them again. You will never have to deal with them again. The Most High will fight for you." But here's the kicker, family. We must hold our peace. Can't go back, can't stay here. Keep moving forward. Shalom.
We woke now. What's up? Appreciate you. We woke now. What's up? Appreciate you. That's a very good note to end on, y'all. We woke now. I hope like, oh yeah, we woke now. I hope like, oh yeah. I hope like, oh yeah, we woke now. No more talk.
You're all I need. You're all I need. You're all I need. You're all I need.
Church. Listen. Genesis chapter 11 verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this back, Genesis 14 verse 13, Abraham steps on the scene. Being a descendant of Shem, which is a fact, means Abraham too was black. Abraham, born in the city of a black man, called Nimrod, grandson of Ham. Ham had 4 sons. One was named Canaan. Here, let me do some explaining. Abraham, Isaac was the... Jacob had 12 sons, for real, and these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10, these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10.